Namaste and welcome to Youth and Development, produced by Today's Youth Asia. In the TV show Youth and Development, we bring young leaders face to face with the key player of development works. My name is Amit and today we have with us Mr. Aaron Lawlor, the County Board member of District 18 at Lake County. He received his bachelor's degree in Political Science and Communication from Lake Forest College.
It was amazing coming to Nepal and learning about all the struggles the country is going through, but also all of the progress. The country has come out of a civil war, has adopted democracy, become more of a secular government, and still has a long way to go. But I think what I've learned over the last 10 days is that it's important to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. There's a lot of accomplishment and also a lot of promise because of over 70% of the country being young people like yourselves who are under 30. I was involved in government since I was about 18, working on different political campaigns and getting involved in my community. And we have a saying in the U.S. that we have to think globally but act locally. And so this trip has taught me about what it means to be Nepali, what it means to be a good global citizen, and what I can take back and advocate for Nepal, and also advocate for my own community, because what's been very inspiring is the level of involvement from young people. I'm interested in hearing what you guys have to ask and ways that I can help advocate for a stronger Nepal, a better U.S.-Nepali relationship, and really get the country on the right track.
How do you become a politician?
Well, a lot of people get into politics for different reasons. Some get into it because it's a family business. But I got into politics for a local reason. When I was in college, my local library that I had grown up going to for years and years needed to expand. It was not serving the community well. It's not effective to spend tax dollars when you're not able to adequately serve your public, and that really bothered me. And in America, we call a local tax increase a referendum, where people go and vote on whether or not their taxes should be increased to do something, build a school, build a library, build more parks. It's usually centered on construction. But my library district had lost 3 referenda, and I decided that I wanted to get involved because I wanted to fix the problem, but you could see that people didn't want a tax increase, so you had to go about it working within the system, but a different way. So I decided to get on that library board, and we started saving money, which is sometimes foreign for units of government to want something and save and meet their goals within their means. And I really drove that process forward. And when I get back to America, we'll be cutting the ribbon, like I'm sure they do on nice buildings in Nepal, on the new library. So that's what got me involved. I really wanted to solve problems. And then on the county board, we are a county of about 700,000 people, maybe a little less, but we're doing our census right now, so we'll see. What I care about is being accountable to our taxpayers. We provide a lot of services. We build roads. We have clinics. We buy land to preserve and protect for natural, habitats. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're being responsible with the way money is being spent and the way that we're taxing people. And I know that sounds incredibly boring to the people at this table. It really is. But the problem is that if young people aren't paying attention to how the government raises and spends its money, they could spend you dramatically into debt, or they can save money and be in a surplus. And what does that do for young people? It will impact you for years to come, because you will either be paying that debt or living off the successes of them being fiscally responsible. So sometimes most of the time, getting involved with government can be really boring, but you have to look at the big picture and also all of the details. And so that's what I really like. That's what makes me tick when I go into work, and I love solving problems.
What do you think about the political condition of Nepal?
You have done a lot, but there is so much more to do. And the most important thing is making a constitution that serves Nepalis well. And in my brief study of history and government in Nepal, the country likes writing constitutions. You've had several in the last 60 years. But the American Constitution, the beauty of the American Constitution is in its simplicity. It's a set of principles that have governed our country for over 200 years. And when you look at the things that are guaranteed to us, or the things that you might consider American rights, the right to free press, the freedom of religion, prohibiting unreasonable search and seizure or unreasonable detainment, those were not things that were enumerated in the original Constitution. They're what we call the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. So in my study of Nepali government, it's a country of tremendous promise. And part of that promise is in young people who are at this table and with today's Youth Asia that want to get involved. But the constitutional process is incredibly important because we have to make sure that it is reflective of the country and that it's a constitution, as we say in America, for the people, by the people. I think that there has been a lot done, and it's important that you look at meeting the deadlines that have been set, but it's equally important to ensure that individuals have individual rights, that we are moving forward on women's rights, and that we are including young people and giving them a seat at the table. In America, we have a saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So if you don't have a seat at the table, your cause might get eaten up. And so it's important for young people right here to be at the table.
What, according to you, is the toughest part of being a politician?
The toughest part to being a politician is not taking things too personally. I'm accountable to about 20,000 American citizens in Lake County, Illinois, and some might agree with what I'm doing, and some might not. Some might make some pretty mean statements about things that I've done, and some really support the work I've done. But at the end of the day, it's important not to take their comments too personally because they care about the government, they care about what's being done, and it's more about their personal opinions and their views on how government should be run than their personal opinion of me. So I think sometimes in government, American politicians get a little worried about what people think. I have to stand for election usually every 4 years, but we have this thing called redistricting where they reapportion to make sure we all have an equal amount of people in our district. And so that would be my second thing about what's the hardest part of being a politician. You have to constantly be accountable. And if you want to stay in office and serve the people and do good, you are constantly taking their phone calls, solving their problems, sometimes putting your own life in the back seat so that you can address issues that are important to your district.
What shortcomings do you think are keeping the people from South Asian countries from understanding politics as something kind of crucial to bring peace within the country?
There could be an inherent distrust given the struggle of the country, that there have been a number of governments. There's been different types of governments that are new, from a monarchy to a democracy, from a more religious government to a more secular government. And so with all of these changes, it's sometimes hard to wrap your head around what's going on and how do I make sense of all this and get involved in a way that's meaningful, where I'm not throwing my time out the window And so I think that's a difficult thing that we have in America. Do you want to spend your heart, soul, energy, or as we say, blood, sweat, and tears working on something when you don't quite know how the system works because it's new and it's different and it's constantly evolving. But the beauty of it is that it is evolving and it's always changing, and hopefully it's always moving forward and changing for the better. One of the other things that I would like to see, being a library guy, I read a lot growing up, kept going to that library. My babysitter, my daycare, took me there all the time. And I think the more access to education that we have, the better off our people will be, the economy will grow, and, oh, by the way, they're going to get more involved in government and know how to keep people accountable, because if we drive down illiteracy and we get more people able to read, they're going to read the newspapers. They're going to see exactly what's happening, and hopefully that will have a positive impact on people paying attention to their government.
What do you like and dislike about the politics of America?
There is a tremendous feeling in your heart when you, as an office holder, are able to hear from one of your constituents that is hurting or has some sort of problem that they can't fix on their own, and that you get in and you fight for them, you advocate for them, and hopefully you solve the problem. I'll have people email me constantly saying, I wish you'd look into this, or can you look into that? And so I do an email newsletter, and it's become a bit of a exchange, and I call it Because You Asked. And I believe that serving people gives you the best feeling. I've walked into rooms of local organizations, we call them homeowners associations, so when you have a group of houses, they all band together and do things like improve roads and landscaping and stuff like that. And I've been to some of these homeowners association meetings and local government meetings where you can tell that none of their other elected officials have come to talk to them and hear what problems they have. And you advocating for them is one of the best feelings that I've had in politics, because at the end of the day, you don't get involved in government to serve yourself. You shouldn't. You should get involved to serve others, and it is called public service for a reason. What I dislike, it costs a lot of money to run for office in the United States. I've worked for politicians, for a member of Congress, so like our member of Parliament, and he is one of 435, and in his last re-election, he raised from supporters $5 million, and that's a lot of money. And I think in government and in American politics, I'd like to see us spend less money, because when you look at everything that it costs to run a campaign, you could do a lot of good with that money. So that's something I really think that we need to change.
Working in the political field till now, what are your achievements?
As I said, my first and really proudest thing was bringing 2 library buildings into being, getting them constructed and opening them next month without a tax increase. It will provide tremendous amount of partnerships with local schools. We strive to provide early literacy programs. I believe that is the biggest ticket to success. So getting people involved in literacy programs early is going to help them get involved and be more successful in their lives. I've only been on the county board for under a year, but we've done a number of projects to improve local roads, to provide access to health care for people who can't afford it. A big issue has been the expansion of gambling. Just like the casino, upstairs, we have gambling in the United States, but we were looking at providing what's called video poker, where it's almost like a video game that you might play in local restaurants. So imagine walking the streets of Kathmandu as a young child and seeing these machines where people are just addicted to constantly playing video poker, and in many cases putting their entire paycheck into the machine and getting nothing in return. I was really worried at the impact this was going to have on our communities and how it would affect local families, people who might not get addicted to gambling would have it right on the nearest street corner. And so I led a fight to ban video poker machines in Lake County because I just didn't think it was the right thing to do. It wasn't the right way to fund our government through different proceeds that come out of the machines. And so that's one of the things that I've done in a very short time on the county board. The other thing that I'm very proud of is we have a commitment to preserving land and improving the environment in Lake County. And I have met more kids in Nepal that are interested in the environment, in environmental sciences, and open land than I have ever before. And so it gives me a great amount of pride and also some motivation to get more involved as we buy more land to preserve it for future generations. We like to make sure that as we do it, that we're buying good land that will help ease some of our growth issues in Lake County, which helps us with congestion on our roads, which you're all familiar with. It helps with head counts, the number of students in schools, because that land isn't being developed. And so a commitment to the environment, a commitment to open space is really important.
Do you have any memorable moments which you can share with us?
I think some of my most memorable moments have been, in politics, have been just the thrill of getting involved and people's faith in you to serve. I think the first time I got elected to anything, my library board, was a tremendous moment because it showed that people believed in the work that I had done. They knew the quality of my character and they wanted to support me. But my trip to Nepal has very dramatically changed my life in the way I see the world. And this is one of the very most memorable moments in my brief 27 years on this earth. And, we came here and there has been a tremendous, an overwhelming hospitality and warm welcome from all of you. And we had landed right as former Prime Minister Kerala passed away at about noon, and he had passed away within an hour or two of that time. And what was interesting was we had a really impressive schedule, meeting with members of the government, community leaders, lawyers, business leaders, and none of that changed. People still wanted to tell the story of Nepal and show us both the struggles and the promise of the country. Some of the most memorable moments have been going to local schools and having people just flock to you and want to tell their story. Sometimes I think you get a much more frank and interesting assessment by talking to people who might not be in the government. I've learned a lot about Nepal from the people who are leading the country, but hearing from students and young people is kind of what makes me tick. I like to get involved with youth issues. And so going to these schools, going to Janakpur, going to schools in Kathmandu University, and see how bright this country is. You guys can write your own ticket. You can go study in India, you can study here, you can study in the U.S., you can study in Europe. And so being here and learning about what struggles and what promise the country has, where you're at, and hopefully where you're going, has certainly changed my perspective on the world.
Who has been your biggest source of support in your political career and in your personal relationships? Well,
it sounds cheesy to say your mother, but my mother has been absolutely my biggest supporter, my biggest critic when she thinks that I need to do something better, and my best friend. When I was growing up, my parents were divorced when I was 2, and my mom taught me a very valuable thing that I've carried with me during my career, and that is a very strong work ethic. When I was growing up, she worked 3 jobs. She was a full-time high school teacher during the day. She taught at a local community college at night, and she ran a typing business before computers were really popular out of our house. And so she has been a tremendous inspiration to me. I think that without her, I wouldn't have worked as hard as I have, challenged myself as much as I had, and really seen the benefit of getting involved. I love going to visit her at her classroom and talk to kids about what's going on in their lives, because it shows that when you commit your life to something like teaching or like public service, you can make a big difference.
Do you think you have achieved your goals? You talked about solving problems. You love solving problems. And have you made your ideas work?
Well, I've made some things work. I've had a relatively brief career, 6 years in elected office. In some standards, that's longer. I'd like to do more. So public service is about constantly challenging yourself. So new things will come up. New ideas will emerge, and you have to make sure that you're constantly working towards those goals. About 6 months ago, I was brand new on the county board, and I was approached by some party leaders to run for the state House of Representatives and abandon, my position on the county board. And I really felt that it was important to keep your commitments that you've made and to work towards solving new problems, as I mentioned, and better serving the constituents that you represent. And for me, that didn't mean jumping to a new position or running for a new position. So while I could have maybe advanced to a higher level, I really thought I should stick around and do what I love doing on the county board. That doesn't mean in the future that I'm not going to find new challenges or new inspirations. It's a constant evolution of listening to yourself, your heart, the people you serve, and the ever-changing political dynamic, which you guys know a lot about, how politics constantly evolve. So I'd like to, to stay involved, keep doing what I'm doing, and there's always going to be more hills to climb and more stuff to do. Thank you. I want to thank all you guys for being here. It's been a tremendously long day, and you've been really helpful.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aaron Lawlor, for being with us and sharing your insightful thoughts and ideas. Thank you for being with us. We look forward for your feedback. Our email address is youthtya@gmail.com. We'll be back next week at the same time. Have a nice week. Namaste.